Neo Soul is one of the most unique genres of all time, and it isn't just a genre, it was once a whole movement. Neo Soul, sometimes called progressive soul, is defined as music that derives from soul and contemporary R&B, but takes a less conventional, laid-back, and stripped-down alternative approach that's different from typical R&B of the time, incorporating elements ranging from funk, jazz, African music, hip-hop, and sometimes electronic music. Its emergence and reign from the mid-90s to early 2000s is so legendary, as neo soul icons like Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, D'Angelo, Maxwell, India.Arie, Jill Scott, and Musiq Soulchild brought the genre to the mainstream. These artists were not your typical black R&B artists. They were seen as eccentric, conscious, alternative, and just more authentic of a person than your typical polished R&B pop superstar like an Usher or a Beyonce. These artists didn't just talk about money and sex, but more about things like a long walk with the person you love, enjoying an afternoon at a coffee shop, or just living life and not being your typical person with the usual desires of the everyday adult. These artists did not have to look, act, and talk like the everyday pop superstar. They could be plus size, have kinky, coily, nappy dreadlocks, go to a red carpet, dress like they just came from the park, and just be them true selves without being manufactured stars and still sell millions of records. This was such a special era in music, and today we'll be highlighting some of Neo Soul's greatest artists, pioneers, its commercial peak and downfall, and what happened to the genre. So, let's get into it. Now, the first hints of Neo Soul began in the mid 90s as stars like Prince and Sade and Anita Baker rose to prominence with albums such as Diamond Life and Rapture. These two albums will prove highly influential to the creation of Neo Soul as they incorporate sounds of soul, quiet storm, and jazz. These two soul legends, Anita Baker and Sade, were not the typical black R&B pop star at the time like a cookie-cutter crossover pop superstar Whitney Houston or the highly choreographed having Janet Jackson. They were different, but so talented. It wouldn't be until the mid-90s that D'Angelo debuted his first album, Brown Sugar, that the movement hit the mainstream, full force, as singles like Brown Sugar seen chart success with his live jazz influences. The actual term was coined by Motown record executive Kedar Massenberg, as he seen it as a perfect term to describe this fresh sound for marketing purposes. Dimitri Elric stated, by definition, neo soul is a paradox. Neo means new, soul is timeless. All the neo soul artists in various ways perform balancing acts, exploring classic soul idioms while injecting a living, breathing presence into time-tested formulas. They humanize R&B, which has often been reduced to a factory-perfected product. Like sushi, neo soul is fresh enough to be served raw, and this describes it perfectly. After this, the genre exploded as Maxwell debuted and seen platinum success, and future neo soul queen debuted with her Grammy Award winning album Baduizm and seen top 40 and top 10 triple platinum success. Erykah Badu was nothing like the Janet Jacksons, Mariah Careys, and Mary J. Blige's at the time. She didn't really sell sex appeal and was covered head to toe with bohemian aesthetic-like clothing, native African rings and jewelry, and her signature hair wraps. She was unapologetically authentic, eccentric, unique, and black, and this helped her success even more. Now, in 1998, Neo Soul would see its biggest body of work to date as Icon. Lauryn Hill released one of the greatest albums of all time, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. This album really put Neo Soul at the top as it debuted at number one, with the number one single, has been certified diamond, selling over 20 million copies worldwide, won 5 Grammys in one night, and is a bona fide classic. The album discusses topics of love, loss, womanhood, motherhood, consciousness, social change, and revolution. Lauryn Hill really put on for neo soul and black women in general. She didn't curse in her music, she didn't sell sex, and she didn't straighten her hair. She rocked her beautiful locks, dressed casual, and let her true natural chocolate skin and inner beauty radiate, and it was and still is loved by the mainstream. Lauryn Hill's success really cemented the neo soul genre in the mainstream as something to take very seriously. In the 2000s, neo soul was everywhere, as Jill Scott, who I love so much, seen platinum success also. She was plus size, eccentric, and just told the story of a normal day to day black woman with day to day tribulations. Her debut album, Who is Jill Scott? Words and Sounds Volume 1, seen double platinum success with songs like Getting in the Way and her classics Long Walk and The Way. I'll sing y'all the lyrics so y'all can get the vibe. Woke up this morning with a smile on my face. Jumped out of bed, took a shower, dressed, cleaned up my place. Make me some breakfast, toast, 2 scrambled eggs, grits. Grab my keys, grab my purse, grab my jacket on to work. Beaming on the way down third. See, y'all get the vibe. She literally just told a story about waking up, eating some breakfast, grabbing her purse, then going to work. But she made it sound like something immaculate. Like, who can even do that? Exactly. Nobody but a neo soul artist. Jill seen more success with songs like He Loves Me, Golden, Hate on Me, and even branched off into acting, and is still a widely loved touring artist to today. India.Arie is another beautiful neo soul artist who has sold millions of copies, starting with her debut album, Acoustic Soul, as India flaunted her brown skin, played her guitar, and told black women they are beautiful no matter what, and that a woman's beauty isn't determined by what she wears, but what she knows. And this is what people needed to hear, and they still need to hear it. More neo soul artists like Floetry, D'Angelo, Anthony Hamilton, Music Soul Child blossomed during this time. But though this was a wonderful time for true, talented, authentic black artists, it had to come to a somewhat end. First, these neo soul icons like Erykah Badu, D'Angelo, and Lauryn Hill were free spirited, authentic, real people that were thrown into the mainstream very quickly. And fame is just a lot for anyone, especially for genuine, normal people like neo soul artists. Artists like D'Angelo and Lauren began to despise the darkness and phoniness of the music industry and celebrity. So they left it all, and this definitely impacted the genre, as its most successful artists that held the genre up left it behind. D'Angelo actually had a disliking for the term neo soul in general, as he claimed he didn't want to be put in a box, as he said he makes black music, not neo soul. Lauryn Hill was the most famous neo soul artist that despised the celebrity, as she never released another studio album after her debut. So, by 2000, neo soul had reached its commercial peak. Black music at this time was so creative, fun, and unapologetically black. Jill Scott, Erykah Badu, and Music Soul Child were all over the radio. But Brian Casey quoted, "They lost sight of making a hit record. And if you don't make hit records, people don't hear your music." But the thing is, these were true artists. They weren't just here for the hits and the attention. They were here for the love of the craft. And unfortunately, that does not always work in the music industry. And these artists were typically perfectionists. So music they might think would be mediocre will sound like gold to us, but it doesn't matter. If they did not feel it and think it was quality enough to be released, we would never hear it. And that is exactly what happened with many of the neo soul artists. Erykah Badu was hit with writer's block also, so she disappeared from the mainstream for a little bit. Erykah stated, "I had to step away when I realized that for the sake of the machine, I was being compromised." These artists realized that their artistry was being limited because of the industry's demands and pressures. So, because of personal tribulations, uncomfortability with pressures of the industry and mainstream success, and business conflicts, many of the pioneers and leaders of the neo soul movement stepped away from the spotlight, leading to the genre fading away. And oh, I forgot to mention, Alicia Keys' debut, Songs in the Minor, was a neo soul and R&B album, and was critically acclaimed, Grammy Award winning, sold millions of copies, and instantly made her a household name. I feel like Alicia is not really mentioned enough when we discuss neo soul, but she definitely made neo soul music and was part of the movement. Though the neo soul movement is technically over, its impact still stands strong today, as artists like Ari Lennox, SZA, and Daniel Caesar make music that is influenced by the OGs. And I see other artists try to fully duplicate the aura of the original neo soul artists, and it sounds nice, but nothing will ever come close to the pioneers and neo soul legends like D'Angelo, Maxwell, Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, Music Soul Child, and India.Arie. They were just different and authentic, and they weren't trying to go for an aesthetic they seen on TikTok or Pinterest. They really lived their life, and that's who they truly were at heart. So I think it's something that should just be left alone and appreciated, because we will never be able to duplicate the essence of true neo soul, especially not during this time. Not only was it a genre, it was an era, a time, a movement, a black renaissance in music, where black art and creativity was successfully received unapologetically in the mainstream. It was beautiful. It was black. It was unique. It was soulful. It was authentic. It was neo soul.